The Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. These videos are aligned with standards set by the Tennessee Department of Education. For more professional development videos, check out our website at cem.mtsu.edu. Welcome back to the SPED Collaborative for Administrators here at MTSU's College of Education. So we are going to continue the morning session with Dr. Charles Farmer and Dr. Lauren Bauer and Mr. Adam DeMumbrian from Franklin Special. So I will give the floor to you.
Anybody want to, we've done a lot of just kind of interactive talking. Anybody want to speak out loud on your personal individual thoughts on these questions? It's okay, because what I'd challenge you is ask these to yourself. Let's, in the interest of time, then, if there's not any quick takers, then we're going to roll. So let me give the context, and then I'll turn it over to them. When we, and Adam, correct me, but so it was foreign to me because there's a lot in Alabama public education that's not right, but actually this notion of RTI was in place 20 years ago. And so that's why when Lauren talked earlier about us connecting when she moved to Williamson County, well, I wanted to reach out to her because we did that in Alabama in 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, those years that I was an administrator there. And so it wasn't foreign to me that we needed to have an intervention program, and that as administrators we need to monitor it. And so when I started at Freedom, that's the other thing we hadn't talked about, is we somehow get it all in where our kids have the 4 core, 2 or 3 related arts, we have an RTI time period, and we have what we call flex time, which is tier 1 intervention. And so we do all that in a day. And we have 5 minutes passing between classes, lunch 20 minutes. And so they already had an RTI time, but I asked, and there wasn't progress monitoring. Is that correct? Fair to say? And so our school psych at the time, who moved within the district to take on a bigger role, she's like, I told her, like, why aren't we doing this? She's like, I really want to do it. And so by October, we have weaknesses in this process that we, even 7 years in, that we still can work on. But in October of 18, we started rolling out a progress monitoring process. And so that's what we want to start with. So let's talk about a clear and consistent intervention program. And again, this is another one of those documents that you're welcome to replicate. There's a lot going on here. This is the actual document. It's only teachers and those who are responsible for the fidelity check. And then,
look, where's mine?
Adam's weren't done.
Like, who's that? Yeah. Is that why you picked that one out?
Yes.
Yeah.
oh, can y'all choose?
Yeah,
can y'all choose March?
If mine aren't on there, then it's. Oh yeah.
There we go. We'll
back.
get our math
better,
coach.
better,
We'll throw the math coach under the bus.
Yeah,
on
I'm
that.
back.
So we started this process back in 18 with the school psych saying, here are 2 kind of questions that are 2 kinds of sets of questions we can use to meet the state standard on progress monitoring. And so at that time, our school psych created this spreadsheet, and then in a minute we'll show you something else that gives us, this is during that, I think Lauren, you're gonna have to speak to it, because we used to have 45 minutes. Lauren's knowledge of things, we decided to bump that down to 30 minutes and do tier 3 in a different time. You want to talk about that now, or you want me to keep going?
Keep going.
So when you look at this, I just want y'all to see the structure of it. And so starting from left to right, it is, the headings are there, but it's there, trying to see it from here. Can't see it. It's back. I'm gonna have to look back and then. So one of the things you have to know about our district too, and this is where the resources benefit kids that we've been talking about all morning, is we have, so the D is for dyslexia groups. You see we have a lot of that. Probably do y'all share that? Yeah, okay. Well, we also have, you see a 2B group, is what we have is we've done away with 2A and 2B this year. The new document wouldn't say that. But we didn't serve just the kids up to the 25th percentile. We had another group of kids from the 26th to the 40th. This year now we just call all kids from from 11 to 50 tier 2. And so we do tier 3 or we do SPED intervention. So that's what that.
Which you have to be careful with. My RTI heart will talk about that in a second.
So then we have the subject, the teacher that's providing the intervention, and we rotate. If we clicked on all these, we rotate the fidelity checks. When we did it, what we're looking for, so it's all right there. And we do this I can't remember. I think we started it. Did we start it paper? No, we started it on Google Form, right? So we have a Google Form. I think it's one of the, if we can go back to the presentation, I think we included it so y'all could use it as well.
And I carry the Google Form like it's on my phone. And I just walk, I see who I have, it's there. I go into that room, or the other day I stood outside the window of the classroom because I could hear inside. And it's a class that if I walked in, because it was an actual special education intervention she was doing, and then I can just do the fidelity check right on my phone, and it goes into the Google Form, and then I date that I did it on our spreadsheet.
It was quick. I'll clarify. So the question was, does that include special ed? So if we, in a minute when we go back, this is linked in there. So the spreadsheet on that column that had the 2B, D, and all that stuff, the plus is our SPED interventions. Anything that says plus, and those are SPED teachers that are providing it. And so the fidelity checks Google form that you just clicked on. So we take this, and then these are the questions. Keep on scrolling. So we go in there, Lauren, you were talking about your phone, so we all have it on phone. So this is what she sees, or we see.
Mm-hmm. And when you go, like for us, when we didn't have this, like we had intervention in place, but I think it was just kind of everybody doing their thing. And so we really tried to hone in on some resources. I think when we started intervention, here's what we heard. Oh, it's another prep, right? And we didn't want it to be another prep. We wanted it to be something that was research-based, that we know works, that we can have in there to help these kids, and that the teachers could have it, and they wouldn't have to prep something else. And so having this form and having us go in there, like Dr. Snowden, our director, says, we like to inspect what we expect. And that has made a huge difference, because not that it's a gotcha, but they know that this is the expectation, and we're going to make sure you're meeting that expectation. So
that first year when we implemented these fidelity checks, I think it was eye-opening to all of us, because like Adam just said, we have an intervention time, but I'll never forget, we're seeing some things we're here today for the SPED Collaborative, so in our SPED classes, and I remember Adam going into a room and then talking to me in private after the fact, and he was miffed because a teacher was actually using SPED intervention time for the kids to clean desks. Yeah, and so this is 2018, right? I mean, it's okay. Because what I told you all we'd talk about later is Adam told me pretty quickly after I was hired, Charles, we got to work on the functionality of our special education department. They've gone through some personal things. Some people where they left or were asked to leave, or some of both. And so, but let's just so I said, let's sit on it for a year. We'll talk about that in the next session, because when we sat on it for a year, it really was a blessing in disguise. Hold that, and I'll explain it in a little while. Mm-hmm. So again, you got to make decisions. So you see all these possible interventions. Well, Adam said they were all over the place in our plus groups. Mm-hmm. And so we called our district RTI coordinator, Lauren wasn't here yet, and said, tell us the most effective reading intervention, SPED intervention that y'all believe at the district level. And it was SPIRE. And so we pulled all the SPED teachers together and said, everybody that teaches reading, and we only have one person doing math. We did the same thing with her, but it was not as big of a deal. Everybody's going to do SPIRE. We're going to get y'all trained. We're going to talking about supports. We're going to spend all the money to do this, until they understood the expectation. And then slowly we had a teacher come in from Blackman, and she was really good with Wilson. Now we're doing SPIRE right now. And so she advocated for a good bit, and now they do anything that's approved by the district. So we're gone way past that 5 years later, but we had to rein it in because we couldn't get our arms around what was or wasn't happening. And so as administrators, when it comes to progress monitoring, you, just like the IEP meeting as LEA, you can't pass the buck.
And it was a smack.
You can, but it's going to come, stuff flows downhill.
And it was a smack in the face to walk into that room, which I know is a good special education teacher, but to walk into there and see them doing that, knowing that all of the support those students that were in there needed, and they're wiping that off. And we had a conversation about it, and she tried to explain, but how do you explain that, right? That's not utilizing that time like it needed to be.
Can we go back to the main presentation, and you were going to talk about something?
With our district having us serve students up to the 50th percentile, y'all could probably throw this away if you're only doing up to the 25th. I have to be very careful with teachers understanding that that's not a student we're looking at usually for a SLD eligibility, right? Like that's we're not looking at this kid. Let's view this third period time. So it falls in our third period, which is 30 minutes. And part of the reason I made it 30 minutes is I'm really trying to keep it as tier 2. Tier 3 happens during 45-minute blocks, and the kids go go every day. Because again, I wanted to kind of pull back from the look that a kid at the 40th percentile who might still be a little bit slower in their fluency, although 40th percentile, y'all, they're not like that, they're in the norm group, was ever gonna be a student that we were gonna look at for testing for SLD. So just kind of keep that in mind. I have to be, I hold tight to that one. I've even shared my thoughts with the district RTI person, and I'm like, cool, I'll do what you're going to tell me to do. However, know that I think you're muddying the water. But that's, but we have the time to support kids, so we'll do it. And the other kids in our building are not doing fun things during third period if you're not in intervention. You're usually just sitting in a study hall.
Which I don't know how y'all's districts work. Adam referenced this earlier. If y'all caught it, Lauren just referenced it. And it partly is because we have about 3,200 students. But if you think of a traditional school building structure, even though Dr. Snowden honestly, if y'all don't know him, I'm surprised because he's an icon. But kind of the building structure is how it is with him. Like right now, any three of us could pick up the phone and he would probably ask how Harrison's doing in college. He's just very engaged. And so when she says she's advocated about that, I don't know that I knew that, but that's how it operates, and that's great. I don't want to know it. On the flip side, she may not have known this, that what I told them is the same thing she did. So they're hearing the same thing whenever I talked to our district RTI coach. I said, that y'all can call it whatever you want to. Call it all 2, when we're talking about gen ed interventions and do up to the 50th, but it's about following the district mandate for me, and it's about, my term to them was butts and seats. And so if our group's allowed to have 10 kids or 9 kids or 6 kids or whatever, then if we can only support up to the 33rd percentile, that's what we're going to do because we only got so many teachers. And in typical fashion for our district, the district office said, great, do the best you can. And so, but we had to advocate because it could almost be unrealistic when you factor in those dyslexia supports as well. And so so our goal is the 50th percentile, but we do based off what Lauren and the coaches see in terms of staying compliant, if you will, with state expectations. The periodic data meeting, we didn't include this because it was just too difficult for y'all to see a visual on that. And so if you're interested in that, I'd say reach out to any of us. In short, what that looks like, and Lauren, it probably should be the two of y'all because I think y'all do at grade level, but really what they do is they have informal meetings, but then we have like when we return in January and our coaches they have I wish I could show it to y'all. We would show it to y'all if you reach out to us, but they have like a graphic with a kid's name and scores, progress monitoring scores. It's awesome to sit in there and hear teachers say, well, what about these? Like, I have this makeup in my room. Maybe this kid is distracted because of a friend group in this small RTI setting. So maybe they need to move to this group because they're both doing the same thing. And so we do that normally twice a year, but then the coaches, and we're not even going to talk about ABST, I don't think today, but that's academic and behavior support team. It's another thing our district requires we do once a month where we talk about how we can support kids. So when you see that line about periodic data meetings, it's just an encouragement to you to don't just like do the fidelity checks and expect there to be intervention without making it to the where for teachers they see the value in it by having a data discussion.
And to harken back to the spreadsheet with all the students, I do the initial data meetings with our coaches when we start to create the RTI groups. I'm also the scheduler, so we roll kids over and they start their year in intervention during that third period because it's not going to hurt you. And until we get your data, we'll see if you test out or not. But we have that spreadsheet because a lot of times coaches will be like, well, don't they have an IEP? And I'm like, yeah, for math. Or yeah, their eligibility is autism. So they're not necessarily they don't have an exceptionality in reading. So we're going to support them in RTI through the gen ed side of things. So that's just another handy piece to that spreadsheet. Is it something we check all the time in real time?
So progress monitoring, just as a recap, if you don't have an intervention program for all your kids, you need to do that, but you need to inspect what you expect. Okay, so here, I don't know, so we did this presentation in Canva and then converted it. And I didn't even tell y'all when we were making final preparations. I don't know why that cut that off.
It's driving crazy.
Yeah. So here's the thing I was just alluding to about a culture of ownership. So at the end of that first year, our director of schools and our associate director of schools at the time asked to come meet with me. And they show up and they inform us that we are TSI for special education. So remember, Adam told me out from the jump, there are going to be some bumps in the road, and I opted to take a wait and see approach. And a minute ago, I said that it was a blessing in disguise because here's what it did. New guy comes in the building. Yeah, I've been there a year now, but I need a foot in the door to challenge these teachers. We've already done the Spire stuff, so they kind of know that we're going to rein some things in. But y'all, we were in the second percentile in the state of Tennessee in SPED at the end of that 2019 testing cycle. And incidentally, that year, here's how bad it was. We were a composite 5 school for the first time in school history, but our SPED kids were not getting served. They haven't given us, y'all know this year, but as of whenever they give us the new testing cycle, we'll know, but as of last year, under Ms. Crosby's leadership and the structure that we put in place over the last years, minus the COVID year, we got a long way to go, but we're proud that in that time frame, we're now at the 47th percentile. One of the things that I talk about, and I'll make a parallel here because I've used it with our leadership before, and our math is doing great, but there was a time when 7th grade math wasn't. And it was like the year before the 2018 cycle, they were like, their growth was like -12, and then their 19 was -9 and -5, and now this year they were level 5 this year. We were level 5 in numeracy. And so even though that looks bad to them and they still felt like they felt terrible because they were 1, you got to find those parts of progress. And 47th percentile, that we got work to do. But I'm going to tell y'all, I'm proud what has happened over the last 5 years to go from the 2nd percentile. I mean, we were in the bottom 20 schools in SPED in the state. And hopefully it'll be higher than that when they actually give the percentile rankings this year. So I think
You said you are basically an inclusion school and you did not do a whole lot of interventions, correct?
Nope. The question was, we're basically an inclusion school and don't do a lot of interventions. No, we do both. And so our SPED teachers, and actually, maybe if we can click on 2019, fall 2019, because I think maybe in that one I mentioned, our teachers, the kind of things that weren't happening in there was they were supposed to be supporting 2 classes a day, and we didn't know if they were or they weren't. So we bumped that up to 3. So we started after we got this designation, and this is linked in there. We started this it's really just notes of some expectations. Yeah, there's our data. We're not high, this is what they saw, and this is from 2019. We explained to them what TSI meant at the time. 747 out of 767 schools. That's where we ranked. Let's just be real about our current reality. So this slide right here is what the increased expectations were from our admin team. It was Dr. Munez, was Dr. Bauer at the time, and she's now principal of Moore Elementary. And the first thing was, you will go to 3 inclusion classes. We will be checking up on you. We're going to do our IEP meetings, maximizing human capital. So we've talked about our targeted support with both our interventions and in our classroom. So to your question, and this is still in place, they are required to be in 3, so the teachers, we have a 7-period day, and they get 2 planning periods. So now we got 5 classes to fill. So how that falls, and it's changed a little bit. Back at this time, they had 3 inclusion classes, an intervention period with special education students, and then what we called exploratory. And what we did at the time, y'all may or may not want to use it. We don't see it as a good function now. The other things that were on that previous slide are. Exploratory is basically a special education study hall. It's where the file holder gets to have their kids, and then they do, if there's a goal on there for SEL, they do organizational check-ins. Those are the kind of things we did back then. And so the interventions happen during our 3rd period. And do we have some this year?
Now it's even better. Okay, so it's new and improved. A lot of them took their planning 3rd period, and what we've done is we have moved their intervention time with their students to the students' related arts time. So most students who have an eligibility that need an intervention, one of their related arts times is the intervention with their file holder or a special ed teacher. And then the other, if they don't require 2 interventions in the day, some kids do, their other can be a related arts class. We have very few that require both intervention periods. We have some that do, but then what I try really hard is that third period for those students. Because they have to have PE, so I've built a PE in third period. And they'll have that and rotate it with a study hall. But no, they're getting intervention from a special ed teacher at least once during the day for 45 minutes.
How large are the classes?
The intervention classes, don't throw anything at me. The one I watched yesterday maybe had 12 students.
Yeah, and I went into one maybe a week ago and it had about 9.
I did another one that had 3. So.
Are you guys hiring?
Always.
Yeah.
I know.
I will say that we at Tullahoma High School have created a skinny block, second block. We call it Wildcat Way. And we have RTI for math and English, and our classes are 12 to 14 students. So it is possible to do, and our student body's around close to 1,200 students. So we've got all of our math teachers and all of our English teachers that we've identified as, hey, and we have a set curriculum. Monday is Mindful Mondays, and they do this. Tuesday is Pathful. Wednesday is like some ACT prep and things like that. So it's all scripted. We worked all summer with it, admin, and then we were blessed to get an RTI coordinator who has done wonders. We stole her from the middle school. And so it is possible to do without money and without all of the stuff that you guys have, and keep those numbers really small. And then the kids can test out. They don't go to RTI on Fridays. That is Fun Friday, and every kid gets to go to Wildcat Way. So we have cornhole tournaments and things like that, so they're not missing out on anything that's going on. We've got in intervention, we don't have more than 13 in a class. Yes. And there's an EA usually in each of those classes as well. So it was a scheduling nightmare for those that do scheduling. That is not me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to worry about that.
It's me.
But
I'll say
we did
this.
make it work.
I'll say this. It helps me keep my eye on the ball as far as, because I see the big picture. So I have a love-hate relationship with scheduling, but I think building a really good schedule makes for a really good school year. Like it's taken me a while to get there because I don't love it.
And then once a month, we get out at 1 o'clock as a district for the high school. Elementary and middle, I think they get out every Wednesday at 1, don't they? But the high school just gets it once a month. And then all the RTI teachers get together and talk about, hey, what's working, what's not. The coordinators in and out. Admin, we're in and out of classrooms to make sure that they're not cleaning desks and things like that. And they also do benchmarking so we can monitor that. So we know that there's fidelity there. Plus the children have a goal. We know we can get out at any point. It doesn't have to be at the end of the quarter. You test out, man, you're back in your Wildcat Way that you were pre-assigned at the beginning of the year. So, yes.
Yeah, for a friend of ours, Bill Harlan, Dr. Harlan's at Brentwood Middle, the saying he always uses to his kids is that it's not a life sentence. And I think sometimes our special education kids unfortunately feel like it is. And so that's the leadership decision y'all have to make. Our parents are supportive of what Lauren's talking about, where a kid may have an intervention, but they also may get the extra dose. I talked quickly before the break. So what that may look like, a kid may be in 7th grade math and have support, and then a group of 4 kids who have specific math needs may then go straight to the same teacher that supported the classroom. Mm-hmm. We're willing to put 4 kids in a room with her so she can reteach. And so that on that slide that said extra dose, that's what that means. Correct. Of grade level standards. Thank you for saying that. Yes, it is tier 1, and it's trying to prepare those kids for, it's not resource, they don't go there in place of, they go there in addition to.
And so just to clarify kind of how we got to that point, there was all of these things, there was the TSI, but we also, when they have resource in 5th and 6th grade, and we didn't have it at all in 7th and 8th grade. And those kids all of a sudden went from a resource class to an inclusion class, which was like, I mean, mind-blowing for them, and they were not successful. I think it's part of the reason we ended up being in the second percentile. So what we did is we really worked towards how can we bridge that gap? And we did it, we were gonna do it for a semester where we did that back-to-back classes, we tried that. Like, we tried a lot of different things for specifically those students because, you know, we wanted them in an inclusion setting, but it wasn't meeting their needs specifically. They needed
Yes.
more, and we didn't want them to just be in a resource class either.
And I want to
so-
give the teachers credit
Yeah.
on that. Our teachers bring so many great ideas to us, and so it was conversations with the intermediate school on, okay, let's do the resource, like Adam just said, let's do the resource. But then what we found out is they weren't keeping up with the Tier 1 standards, and so then the teachers came to us and said, can we put them in there, and can we take away one of their related arts? And now I think this is year 3 of us doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're shaking your head, so yeah.
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 I mean, it is. That was a big change for us. But like I said, as a former math student, it was painful to watch them struggle like they did, knowing that with those Tier 1 standards, like they couldn't do it, and they needed that extra support.
And
so.
I think, you know, being in middle school where we know conversations a high school may and may not have about modifications, and we have some modified students, but some need a shot at a gen ed diploma.
Right.
And until we're really comfortable and our psychologist is really comfortable saying that might not be the pathway, I feel like we're going to throw everything at them to keep them on grade level standards. So like they said, I have students in 8th grade that go to their core content teachers and they'll go again for that extra dose of math or reading. They'll get their intervention and then they might get an extra dose. And then our flex period is really cool too, and our special ed teachers have used that a lot. Kids can kind of go anywhere for tier support, but our special ed teachers will also build themselves as an option if they don't have to go to one of their content area teachers, and they'll do a lot of like kind of that exploratory file holder check-in with the students during that time, and that's 30 minutes.
We could do an all-day presentation on our flex time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's neat because it's a continual science experiment, and in February we will be in year 2, and our guiding coalition in the building just continues to make tweaks. And so it's been great.
You know, to tie this to what we were talking about earlier too, about the conversations in an IEP meeting, right? Of what is our role? That for us at the middle school level, that whole diploma tract is a big deal. And those of you who are in middle schools or even in the high schools, like, you know, we try to start talking about what those options are when we have them in the 7th grade. But we're never going to say this is what they're doing in the 7th grade. You know, there are some that you know this is probably going to be the path. But I think for me, I try to think of that is if that were my child, would I want them to have the opportunity to get a regular education diploma, general education diploma? And I think for all of us, it would be yes. We want to do everything we can to see if we can put them on a path to get that diploma. And I think, again, it goes back to when I said I'd say relationships 1,000 times. Having that, knowing those students, having a relationship to have that, because that's a tough conversation. There's been many tears I've seen in IEP meetings from parents when we're talking about they might not have the opportunity to get a general education diploma. That's a tough one, and it would be tough as a parent too. So I think, again, it just all of this ties back in with everything we're talking about. So
Is to show you from how explicit that PowerPoint was, because we just pulled that out from our old files, like we didn't edit it at all. And then what we meant to link there was that PLT, our special education PLT. There we require our teachers to have some sort of a running agenda as part, and they have norms and they have all of those things that are associated with the professional learning community process. And I meant to link, so Lauren talked earlier about being in their professional learning team time last week. I just wanted y'all to see their running agenda, and I linked the wrong thing, so we don't need to click on that. We'll just keep
Next.
rolling. So let's take about 10 minutes, maybe 7,
Yeah, smaller groups, so yeah, just.
to think through this.
And I think here's the thing, like we are all in different places, right? And I'm talking about geographically and within what we do in our schools and our districts. And so we could just as easily be sitting over there and some of y'all could just as easily be up here. So, talk to each other. We really want to talk about what that looks like and see where you are with the process. And don't be embarrassed if it's not anywhere, right? We had to start too. We were second percentile. That was hard to put up on that slide. It was hard to hear. So
The best thing that you're going to do is own it. And Dr. Snowden, that's another thing he tells all the time. If you mess up, fess up. Well, that kind of relates here. And so if you need to work on some things, we believe strongly in the way our special education department continues to grow, that your intervention process and monitoring all those things is a key component of what you need to do. So if y'all just take, let's just say 11 o'clock, that's 7 minutes to talk to a partner about what y'all are doing, and then we'll come back together.
We only target those lower, and they go into that second block RTI, which is our skinny.
And they force you to choose one.
Yeah, well,
Once over.
Rutherford County only does speech therapy.
What do those teachers do? Our RTI coordinator also teaches math reasoning to the seniors. One of our RTI teachers is our sophomore English teacher.
We have the same number of administrators there with twice the number of kids, twice the grade levels. So we also have 56 students.
Here's what we know about adult learning. We haven't done a great job today because adult learners like to move just like kids. But I hope that the interactive conversations throughout have made it okay. So, but with that in mind, is there anybody that's willing to share out about what you feel like at your school y'all are doing well? What's working well?
This is the first year we've tried this, and so far it's going well. We have managed to get 2 separate RTI periods, and every child in the building during their RTI period is in an intervention of some sort. So we have, of course, Tier 3, we have Tier 2, but those kids who are in 26th to somewhere around 50, 60, again, it just depends on the class sizes, they go to our social studies teachers where they are working on test-taking skills, or they're doing just further reading. Even if it's a social studies content, that's still more work they're getting in reading. And then our highest kids go to our science teachers, and they do STEM projects and those kinds of things. So the numbers for those, of course, are higher as we try to keep the Tier 2 and Tier 3 numbers a little bit lower. We're not hitting state numbers, obviously, on where we want to be with that. But that's enabling all of our kids who need both reading and math intervention to actually get both of those. So for our SPED kids, that's the time when they're getting their direct services with their case managers. Middle school, sorry. Murray County, we are, and this is not a district-wide thing. We kind of do it school by school. Whitthorne Middle School, we are 5 through 8. So I've laughed all day and said we have the same number of administrators you do, with twice the number of students, twice the number of grades, twice the percentage of SPED, same number of SPED teachers. But a lot of the things, like I do a spreadsheet when I'm in those IEP meetings to keep up with modifications and test accommodations and all of that. Seeing yours, just kind of put that on steroids. I love that. Love it.
One of the things I love about what y'all are doing, and I've said this year with our flex time, is like it just perpetrates that culture of learning. Like everybody's going somewhere and everybody's getting something that they need. We had Fun Flex for a minute. We were trying to figure it out for like an overflow. Like you could pick the gym, and we don't have Fun Flex anymore. And it makes my heart so happy. The kids are like, "Where's open gym?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's not a thing
Because every
anymore.
boy was picking
Yeah.
open gym. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? And I think that's just been the evolution of flex when we first started to
Yeah,
where we
but that's really cool about your RTI model is like everybody's going somewhere.
And every teacher in the building
Yeah.
is, sorry, every teacher in the building is doing an intervention of some kind. I said they go to social studies teachers, but they also go to our gym teachers or our health teachers or music teachers, that every teacher is involved in that.
We're going to have to call y'all though, because we haven't, we make decisions by and large in terms of, okay, and our math teachers, as their growth and achievement numbers continue to increase, they're getting more, you said salty earlier, they're getting more protective, salty about, well, why do they get to go to ELA? Why do they get to do reading intervention instead of math? And so we have some tweaks, but that's amazing that y'all can do.
But it's nice to have them fighting over academics, right?
I told him I will referee that fight all day long. You want to fight over a kid because you want them? Yes, come to me on that.
So the way that we do that RTI when they need multiple is if they're taking math this semester, they get math RTI. And then if they're taking English, and we make sure that those kids don't have math and English in the same semester because we're on blocks. And then when they're taking English in the spring, then they convert over to RTI English. And we also have all of our teachers in the building. Our coaches gave up a full planning and they all volunteered to take the skinny, that second block for Wildcat Way for their planning because it's only like a 35-minute. And so all the coaches take that as their planning so that every teacher in the building has a Wildcat Way and it is formatted to where they're getting enrichment also. It's not like a free-for-all. Mondays are this, Tuesdays are this. Like there's a learning thing. We do ACT prep school-wide because we're trying to get our ACT scores up. So they get ACT prep starting at 9th grade, and then it just increases as the years go through.
And I think for us, I would say one of the things we're still trying to do better is doing like enrichment and extensions, because I think we focus so much sometimes on the intervention and those kids that are up here, how can we stretch them as well? So
Yeah, because we really want to answer those. If you're familiar with the PLC process, we really want to answer those 4 questions. And we admittedly have work to do on question 4, which is what are you going to do if they already know the content? So anybody else that want to share about what's working well? Anybody brave enough to talk about what may need specific attention? All right. So let's bring it home.
All right.
Our last section. All right, so here's the guidance for how you support adults, in our opinion. Take a minute to look at that, and then we'll start talking. If you do not let your teacher leaders lead and have small victories, then they're going to continue to look your way to have all the answers. And while the buck may stop with you, the way you get buy-in is by showing support. And I know that sounds simple, but sometimes it's hard for us to do. Because here's the thing is, you got something to say? Go. Here's the thing is, sometimes they just want an answer. Sometimes we just want an answer. And so the tricky part for the leaders is, okay, am I going to just give them the answer, or is this something where I need to push and let them try and succeed, or try and maybe not succeed? And so I think that you got to evaluate if this is something within the expectations and the culture that you want your building to have. Is this something that we want to allow an adult, a teacher leader to lead?
And I feel like we are in the positions we are in because we feel like we can lead, right? I mean, we're administrators because that's what we want to do. We want to help guide the direction of our school, if you're a district person, of the district. And so it is sometimes hard to let go of that because even when they do it, you're like, oh, I might have done this a little bit differently, but that's okay as long as they're doing it correctly and it's meeting the goal that you set. But I do think I know for me personally, that sometimes is hard to let them do it when it's like, I know how it should be done, at least in my mind, right? And I know it will get done if I do it. I think that's almost my fear sometimes is it going to get done in a timely manner and correctly? But I think that it is important. I think we've gotten better at that because it's hard for teachers sometimes to lead their colleagues too, because they're their colleagues. And so we talk a lot about that, about the tough conversations among colleagues, and that can be productive, and all about how you have that conversation, about how you approach it. And so we have really made an effort to grow our teacher leaders. It's not always a easy, smooth process. I think about something that happened just the other day between a group of teacher leaders that did not go well, and I think they're having another meeting while we're gone, so who knows what's happening right now. But I do think it is very important that they have an opportunity to do that.
I think earlier I mentioned like the intervention piece after we kind of got things where we wanted them. I think that's an example of what I'm saying in terms of no matter how small, like when that teacher came and I challenged him a little bit about using Wilson, and Wilson, let me clarify because we're talking, not talking about Wilson,
dog.
not Wilson the dog, talking about Wilson reading.
Not everybody's favorite dog.
And not the best employee in our building. I think at the point at which that was heard, then people start saying, okay, and then you saw how long our intervention list is. That's some gen ed, some special ed, but so those are the kind of things. But one thing that I've never, I think that we share this, but that second bullet's mine, the first part of it, is if you are gonna sit back and complain as a person in the building and not gonna come with a solution, then you haven't earned the right to complain. That's a full stop for me. Like, what are you doing in the building if you're just sitting back sniping? Because if you don't have a solution to something that's a problem to you, then all you're doing is taking time away from supporting kids. And everybody in this room, I bet we all feel the same, that we show up every morning because we want to advocate for some kids, all kids, but there are some, like we mentioned earlier, that really are the focus of why we do what we do. And so if you're not solutions oriented in our building, then you're gonna get called out, and we do it in a variety of ways. And it's interesting, I'm gonna give them the example of, we had a few of these folks about a year ago who wanted us to have a listening session in front of the whole staff. And at a faculty meeting.
We're going to sit in front of them and just, I said,
and
like
the work that we've done, prior to me even, like Adam, that's Adam's top thing is relationships. We said we're not doing it. We're not doing it.
We said we'll do it, and we did, but we're not going to have a faculty meeting where we just take in whatever.
Well, as I remember it, initially we said we weren't going to do it, and then the sniping continued, and Adam had to proof a message I was going to send to everybody. He made me use the word malcontents instead of snipers.
Yeah. I said school, and that's not a good. Yeah.
And we agreed.
Put those together.
That will get flagged. Yeah.
We agreed to have small group meetings during planning time, because 7th grade teachers have the same planning time, 8th grade teachers have the same planning time, related arts teachers have the same planning time, SPED teachers. And you find out a lot when you do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because we knew who the people were. And guess what they didn't? The people were requesting this. They didn't show to any of them.
Right.
So you have to decide what your culture is going to be so that you can support who needs supporting. And if they're not willing to do what they need to do in their responsibility within the building, then sometimes you got to put people in the corner. All right, I'll get off. I'm off my soapbox.
I think also speaking to that second bullet, a lot of times when teachers come to me, I'll say, well, you're the expert, what do you want me to do? Like they'll bring it to me, let's say it is special ed and they notice something going on, I'm like, okay, because I know you probably have a solution, like you're probably coming to me with a problem, but you've probably already figured it out. It's rare that I think they come and are like, I don't know, like help me. So a lot of times like, okay, well, you're the expert, what do you need? What do you need the solution to be? Or like, what do you need me to do? And most of the time, like I said, they have it figured out. And I think if it's reasonable and it works and I can facilitate that, because that might be just what it needs to happen. They just need me to facilitate it. Sure, great, I'm good with that. We'll figure out that solution. And then there are other times where, like Dr. Firmer said, you just have to tell people they need to do what they're supposed to do.
Well, and I think that goes, you know, again, this is about special education, right? And it's like, okay, well, what does that, well, the culture impacts everything. And what we expect of the teachers, what we expect of the faculty and staff. I mean, it makes a difference, not just in one small thing, it makes a difference in everything. And so I think you can't really speak to anything that we do at school or in a school building without thinking about how the culture impacts it and what we expect of folks, how that impacts it. I think it makes a huge difference. And we had a longtime principal before Charles came, and it had gotten, I love her to death, but it had gotten stagnant, right? I mean, we'd been there doing kind of the same things, and so when you have somebody new come in and the culture, it's like, what is happening, right? Even for me, I mean, we had to have some, like that first year, like we got a lot closer after that. Like, you know, we didn't always see eye to eye. We did, but we came about it different ways. But I do think the ability for us to have the conversations we had that first year allowed us to get to where we are now.
Absolutely.
And I think it's the same thing with the teachers and with the faculty and staff, you know, getting to that point where you can disagree without being mad at each other, you know, and that's not always an easy thing to do.
Another thing I did this year with scheduling that I hadn't done in previous years is I worked on the number of sections we were going to have for each subject area. We have honors in middle school. So I knew how many honors sections we were going to need. I knew how many inclusion sections we were going to need. And so I put those out to the departments. And I said, hey, let me know who's teaching what. So that they had to have those conversations, and it wasn't like, oh, Lauren Bauer decided who's teaching the inclusion sections, or the special ed department decided who's teaching the inclusion sections. And what I loved is every department came back and every teacher asked for at least one inclusion section. They said, give us each an inclusion section, and then, because what that helped, and y'all know this, there are some teachers, your special ed department will even say, oh, God, don't give them inclusion. Like they're hard to work with, or they're not gonna do what they, and I'm like, oh, no. We all teach all kids. So like if I have to have that conversation as the administrator of the building and say, no, you're gonna have students with eligibilities in your classroom, like I'm comfortable having it, but putting it out to them and having them all say, we want one, I think was a huge step that talks to the culture of our building when it comes to special education.
Plus they had to talk to each other about.
Well, I put it out to the department and said, no, y'all come back and you tell me who's doing what.
Right. So it's hard to say, well, no, I don't want that. Okay, well, now you're giving it to me. I think that makes them work together better as a department as well. So you want to keep going with this? Or?
Yeah, so okay. Example, I mentioned earlier I was going to give you an example in leadership in the department. And so delicate balance between trusting and verifying. So we were straight up with y'all, told y'all where we were TSI. We had a leadership, an individual as the department head at the time. Y'all saw the slide that we presented to them that was very straightforward in what expectations were. And there was a separate conversation between me and the department head at the time about, okay, this is what I need from you. Some organizational supports related to not to that level, but the spreadsheet y'all saw earlier. There was no organization. And so I was patient for several months, and then I I had a conversation with that person and said, here's the deal. Like, I've given you time, I've offered support, I've offered to help. And so there are two things that I'm willing to do. As we go into the summer, this is trusting and verifying. I tried to trust for almost a full school year. Kept verifying, but I gave the teacher two options. You can go ahead and decide on your own, like step down as department head, or I'll ride with you, but please understand, at some point next year, if this is still not meeting my expectation, then I'm going to have to remove you as department head, and then that's going to be on you. And she, like, I'm all in. I'm going to get better. And I ended up, and I say I in this because I didn't want Adam or Amanda at the time I feel like those kinds of things are my responsibility. And I had to remove her. And as a result, the current department head that we've been referencing today is still the department head and is largely responsible. And so, again, it's a lonely place sometimes, and you want to trust, but sometimes when you verify, you got to hold firm and not be passive. The last two bullets, listen, is the next one, and I'm a fixer, and sometimes when I'm listening, I'm like thinking, okay, what do I need to do to help them? And sometimes everybody in this room, including all of us as administrators, we just need somebody to listen to us. So remember that sometimes maybe that's all, whoever the person is, whether it's a SPED teacher or not, or a parapro or not. And then they made fun of abdicate, but whatever. Engage. Like we've been saying this all day. Like you cannot have a hands-off approach. And I'm going to use this example and try to be, when I was assistant superintendent, I had a principal whose school was struggling academically. And I'm trying to make sure I say this where it maintains privacy. And the decision was made at the time by the superintendent to give this principal an additional 0.5 assistant principal. I was opposed to it as the person over high schools and middle schools, but obviously the superintendent said do it, so we were going to do it. And that decision, because I know what that superintendent's approach was. If I provide you resources and you do not show improvement, then guess what's happening? And so that half-time assistant principal became the SPED administrator. Against my suggestion, he abdicated the responsibility, and the situation actually got worse. And so we can't. It's too important. Everything we do is. But the nuances related to special education, you can't be a hands-off leader in this regard. We are a Title I school, and so we are fortunate to have a lot of additional resources on top of what we've already talked about. And so pinch as many pennies as you can for your teachers. And again, it allows for those small wins. I don't think we need to have a lot of conversation about this. We've only got about 8 minutes, and we really want to make sure y'all don't just have general questions for us. So any questions about that slide, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a reminder to y'all is use your resources, your financial resources included. Advocate for your teachers with the central office to buy things. If you're a Title I school, put money aside for them. All those important things. Anything to add? For review, hopefully today, you realize you got to model expectations. You set the example. And you got to hold yourself, most importantly, and then others accountable. And obstacles need to be out of the way. No barriers. No barriers. Y'all have anything to add?
I will say one other thing about the leadership at your school. Part of why I think we are a great school and that we have a great culture is because the trust we have in each other and the way we get along with each other. You can tell, right, when you walk into even like an interview, when you're sitting down, when you're like, what, do these people even like each other? Do I want to work at a place where the folks who run it don't even, don't see eye to eye on things? So I do think especially from a principal level, you got to get people in there that you can trust and that you share the same ideas. And, we try to enjoy every day as much as we can. We try to have fun with it because y'all know how hard it is. And you could really burn yourself out quickly if you don't laugh every once in a while too. So I think having that team at the top, really, at that building, makes a huge difference in how you interact with each other. And I think the people there see that as well.
So we got about 6 minutes, and is there anything that we can talk through with y'all? What I don't want to get lost is we are obviously thankful for our resources, but that doesn't necessarily always make what we do easier. And so I don't want y'all to think, well, they've got this and they've got that. And so they're able to do this or do that. Because it's the obstacles we all have, there's obstacles in every situation. If you're in certain districts, it may be parent expectations are too lofty. In other districts, it may be that parents are hands off. It may be that you're a Title I school here, but yet you're a wealthy district that doesn't get a lot of, there's always something. And I feel like I have to say that it is a key part of what we do, but it's not, it helps, but it's still hard. What questions do we have?
I will say this too, just remember that we came to present this and we're not experts on SPED, and I think that's what we do as administrators too. We're not experts on one thing. We have to be knowledgeable about many things, and SPED is just one of them. And it's been a process, and I think it's always a process. And I say lean on the folks who are the experts too. That's what we do. That helps us get where we need to go.
I shared earlier with one of the districts that when I was the elementary school principal, had a kid that we needed help and support with, and I I'm like, no, get a behavior specialist down here. I need you to look and see what's happening in my building. I'm not educating this child because of behaviors, and I need help. And I do not have a problem wearing somebody out to get them to help my building. At the end of the day, we help the student, but y'all know our teachers work so hard, and they needed to see me having their back. They needed to see me swapping in and out of that with that child in the room, right? I always have valued special education teachers because I have not wanted to be a special education teacher. So I think that's another thing I'll say, advocate, wear out your central office, have them come put eyes on, because when they did, the behavior specialist said, whoa. I'm like, well, I've been screaming for you to come visit now for a month. Come on now. I wasn't calling you about nothing. So just something, use your resources, lean into those people.
And don't tell, the other part of that is, and we haven't even used that today in our conversation, is we roll our sleeves up by our teachers. I'm not going to get specific because it is a current student or was, but we have a number of very challenging situations, and one or all of us, the teachers know that we're going to walk alongside them. And so it's just a reminder. I'm not saying that nobody does that or that y'all do or don't do it, but just remember, walk alongside your people, because sometimes they feel like that it can get really heavy. Well, if there's no questions, we appreciate the time together. In the PowerPoint is our contact information. If you ever need us for anything, we're humbled to get the opportunity to share. We hope you found a few nuggets during the time together, and just thank you.
Thank y'all.